Have you ever had to make a decision so big, so hard, that it consumed you? Well, I made that decision in January of 2004. I packed my big, black Samsonite suitcase with all of my prized possessions, my camera, a couple of my favorite books, pictures of my family and friends and my life in Iowa. I got on my first solo flight to New York City. I had accepted an internship in New York City for a semester at the largest theatrical publicity firm in New York City. We did all the public relations for Broadway. That semester was my defining moment. It changed my life. I walked through the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I saw the New York City Ballet for the first time. I cried during my first Broadway show. And I knew that semester that Cedar Rapids, Iowa, was never going to be enough for me. And so I told myself after that semester that I would move back out to New York. And I did. I accepted my first real job right outside of New York City in a town called Greenwich, Connecticut. And I would commute to work every day on this silver bullet train called the Metro North train. And the train would ride all the way from New Haven, Connecticut to Grand Central Terminal in New York City. And I would get off on Greenwich Avenue. That was my stop. I would walk a mile up a hill. And at the top of Greenwich Avenue was my photo studio where I worked. The company I worked for, we did black and white film photography, all portraits. For someone that's from a small liberal arts college, it was my dream job. Within 4 years, I had worked my way up in that company where I was running the studio, managing the staff, and I was the head photographer there. I was 25, had met the man that would soon become my husband, and I was making more money than I could have ever imagined. But it wasn't enough. Even though I was traveling, I went in 1 year to Ethiopia, Rwanda, and Egypt. And just like when I had left Iowa for the first time and went to New York, when I went abroad, I learned something. It was bigger than just finding my dream job and making a lot of money. It was more than that. I wanted to connect, and I wanted to have relationships outside of my clients. On a regular day on my commute home, I was sitting on the train. And I remember looking across from me, and I saw a man. He was wearing a full suit. And he was nodding off, exhausted from his workday. He looked like he could have worked on Wall Street. And then diagonal to him, I saw a woman, and she was very professional. She could have been a teacher or something. She had her hair pulled back, and her lips were pursed, and she just looked stressed. And in that moment, I knew that if I continued down this path and this life that I had created, that I would just be someone on the train, a drained vessel, just like them. And what I didn't tell you is that I would leave my house at 7 a.m. so I could get on a 7 o'clock train every day, and I would get home after 7 p.m. And so my family, friends, my husband, and my happiness took a back seat to my success. So let me ask you again. Have you ever had to make a decision so big and so hard it consumed you? Well, I had to make a decision again, just like when I left Iowa, when I left everything and everyone I knew. But this time it wasn't just me. I had to convince my husband that we had to leave the life we had built and created. So we packed that black Samsonite suitcase. This time that bag had some wear and tear on it. that bag had traveled. We moved to Ohio. I had applied to 5 schools nationally, and I accepted the one that was willing to hear my story. The story about the crazy photographer who wanted to make a difference. I wanted to go into higher education. I wanted to impact more people. And so I know some of you might be asking why. She had her dream job, money, she was able to travel. Why would she leave all of that? That's the American dream, right? That's what we're told. And the answer is simple. I wanted to impact bigger than the 4 walls of my photo studio. This is just 2 moments in my life where I've had to make a decision like that, where I've come to a crossroads. And every time I've had to come to a moment like that, I've had to ask myself, what kind of an impact do you want to make? And what are you going to do to get there? Maybe your moment hasn't happened yet. But when it does, what will you do? Thank you.